Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Eddie Olshansky, or Trash Fish, the cool kids call him. I wanted to have you on. I saw a video, disturbing one, of you on the Cuyahoga River in the Cleveland, Ohio area. And what was being dumped into that river was pretty disgusting. Let me play the video.
Just hanging out outside of Sherwin Williams, where they just dumped a shitload of diesel fuel into our river, and they've got the nerve to ask me to stop taking photos and stop taking video of their remediation efforts when they've left our river looking like this. Rainbow River. I guess we got a new nickname. Thanks, Sherwin Williams. Paint the world.
So tell me about Sherwin Williams and what they were dumping in that river.
Yeah, so I mean, Sherwin-Williams, massive paint and chemical company. They're founded here in Cleveland a really long time ago, late 1800s, and they've done no shortage of polluting our Cuyahoga River. Y'all might have heard of our rivers, most famous for catching on fire a couple of times in the late 60s, and we actually had another river fire here in 2020, but that wasn't them. And but this time, yeah, they had a leak in one of their fuel tanks for a generator. Some fuel lines were spilling diesel fuel for an undisclosed amount of days before it was caught on last Monday. And they reported to the EPA, and the EPA came out and said, you know, they're doing great. They've mitigated it, and there's no visible, fuel left in the river, no sheen or anything like that. And it's one thing to have an accident, and like I don't love it at all, but like you got to expect that like sometimes some things like that are going to happen. But you hope that if we've welcomed you into our community to do business here, that you're going to take the responsibility to put in preemptive mitigation efforts, and then if something does happen, you're going to be honest with us and actually do your part to clean it up. And that's clearly not what was happening, even though we were being told that was what was happening. So I went out on the river, and as I do, our organization is out on that river, almost daily. And we went and found it, and we tried to show our community what was still in the river, and try to push the Ohio EPA to actually take some, serious efforts to take out the fuel that had already been spilling all the way down the river and right towards Lake Erie, where I get my drinking water, and so do almost 12 million other people.
Right. And I'm starting to get a pattern here in America. The EPA, when it came to the Flint River water crisis, the Ohio EPA, after Norfolk Southern nuked East Palestine with a chemical shower, the Ohio EPA, everything's fine right after. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, we have been talking to residents for a year who are not fine and are getting sicker. And the Ohio EPA, after this, diesel fuel, go ask the people in Red Hill, Hawaii, about diesel jet fuel on right on top of their aquifer. That's at the U.S., I believe, Navy installation in Hawaii. But the Ohio EPA is saying it's fine. No diesel fuel was anywhere near drinking water. Doesn't seem fine by your visuals.
It does not seem fine to me either. And I mean, our sewer district, our wastewater treatment plants are some of the best, but like, again, that just is our tax dollars funding extra work by them to clean up this mess from Sherwin Williams. So I don't see any good that can come of it. And like I said, this river, it flows, directly into the lake and directly towards our municipal water pump. So I'm not a scientist. I can't say, that our drinking water is perfectly safe or it is not. But I certainly don't want that in my drinking water source.
Well, I agree. You can't definitively say this, but part of the problem is, how are the 12 million people that get their drinking water from Lake Erie, how are they supposed to make good decisions for themselves or their children if they don't even know? Because I'm pretty sure most of them don't even know. Knowing the national media, forget it. But the local media, maybe they did a little bit on this and just regurgitated what the company in Sherwin Williams said without investigating. So I don't know. I would like to. I'm a parent now. I'd like to at least know what happened so I could decide whether I want to take a break from the water and, maybe get bottled water or something else.
Yeah, and I mean, bottled water is no great solution either.
I know.
And there's no good solutions, and it's just like these people just they don't care. And water is life, and I've dedicated my life to like protecting the drinking water source of my community. And seeing it treated like this, I mean, it's gut wrenching. It's sickening.
Hey, can you talk about Sherwin Williams? I mean, they're not the first big corporation to dump, whether intentionally or accidentally. But do they have a history of this kind of thing? Have they quickly informed authorities if there's some type of spill? Tell us about their role in all this.
Like I said, our river specifically was used as an open dumping ground for these industries that we had supporting our economy here in Cleveland, and we had turned a blind eye for a very long time until the rest of the world found out that our river catches on fire every once in a while. And so like since then, I mean they do a lot less direct polluting here because we have made such strides to clean this river and turn it from a toxic waste into like a great community resource. And so seeing it, in 2024, looking very similar to what it looked like in 1950s, like that goes against everything that I work for.
Mm-hmm. And could you talk about some other things? Because you said you're out there with your organization almost every day. What other kind of contamination have you seen, whether it's from corporations spilling or other means?
Yeah, and I mean, no matter where this pollutant comes from, how it gets into the river, it all comes from a corporation to start with. So, like, I personally, like my organization, we have a fleet of kayaks that are available for free for volunteers any day if they want to come out and physically pick up. It's a lot of plastic bottles, a lot of post-consumer waste, which again, I don't blame my community for, because I see the people who are trying to put it in the right spot all the time, but the trash cans are overflowing and it ends up right in our river. And as you can see, like that's where we get our drinking water. So we do a lot with single-use plastics, and just from being down in the river almost every day, like I have seen other small spills that were, we couldn't figure out where they came from. We see a lot of people who, there are a lot of companies around that you don't want to pay for recycling your styrofoam or whatever. So you dump a bunch of kerosene on it and shrink that dump truck full of styrofoam down into a trash can size. And yeah, sure, you dump that right in the river and no one can really tell you where it is. I mean, the amount of stuff that we find with businesses' names on it, from like the Walmart circular recycling stuff, and it's just hundreds of yards of saran wrap floating through our river. But so like, we talked a second for single-use plastics, but I don't know how much your listeners here know about zero-use plastics, but the most common piece of plastic pollution that I find in the river, they're called nurdles, and they're basically these tiny little raw resin plastic pellets that are supposed to be turned into a product in a manufacturing facility. But quite often, because there's no laws on how they're shipped, they don't even have to have lids on the boxes that they're shipped in. And there's no rules with these companies that use them in manufacturing to have catches on their drains or, catch basins on their sewers. And it's just, once they hit the floor, they're contaminated. You can't make a product out of it. So it's cheaper to just sweep it into the sewers. And that's zero-use plastics. No one even used that for 30 seconds, and all that damage goes into producing it. And then we have its end-of-life issues where it ends up in our waterways.
Right. Let me ask you, because I don't know your politics, doesn't really matter. But to me, spending about $900 billion now on the military to, create wars all over the world. However, to me, if you want to talk national security, I don't really know a more dangerous thing than the number one essential for life being contaminated across the country, which is not covered. And the government and the media basically only focus on lead. If we just replace the lead service lines or the lead lines delivering water all over the country, which absolutely have to be replaced. But there's a whole lot of other shit in our water that people don't know about, causing cancers, immune issues, nervous system diseases, liver problems, kidney problems, from diesel jet fuel to arsenic to chloroform to PFAS, the forever chemicals. I mean, I could go down the list. Could you kind of talk about, there seems to be a real cognitive dissonance among people. It's not their fault because they're not being informed, that there's a lot of really, might not kill you right away, but over time, dangerous stuff in our water.
Certainly, yeah. And those health effects are wide ranging. Like you said, they're mental, they're physical, they're reproductive, they're, all sorts of things. And it's just like we're just being poisoned from every angle. And I hear it a lot in my community where it's like, oh, who cares about the drinking water because we can buy bottled water. And as we already talked about, that's not a solution either, because 9 times out of 10, your tap water is going to be, it's definitely going to have less plastic in it than bottled water. But and all that bottled water, it's stolen from communities all over the country where, we have Nestle here in Ohio as well. And one of their big water collection points is just a couple of miles away from Flint, Michigan, and they pay almost nothing for
$200. They pay $200 a year. That's what it was a couple years ago for a permit to basically steal water from the Great Lakes, which includes Ohio, which is the most glacial, cleanest water, I believe, on Earth, and provides 20% of the world's surface fresh water. But Nestle, for $200, is able to extract, I don't even know how much, but stealing basically our water.
Right. While members of my community are getting their water shut off because they miss one bill and you can't make your kids dinner or give them a shower. So that also makes me sick.
Yeah. Last question. Can you kind of talk about the political aspect of this? Because I don't know. I mean, not that I expect much from Republicans, but Cleveland, surrounding counties, pretty Democratic, pretty blue. Ohio used to be a swing state, more red now, but do politicians do anything about water issues? I'm not going to ask if they do anything about criminal corporations because we know the answer, but seems like I should also ask journalists, because why is it you on the river showing this rather than a journalist from the local news?
Or the EPA that should be still on the river after this, and not just parroting, like you said, the claims of this company. But
do the politicians not drink this water? Does the media not drink this water? They just don't care?
I think a lot of people think that you can buy your way out of this problem. If you have more money, you don't have to drink tap water, you can do whatever, but there's no safety in that. So left or right, doesn't matter to me. The politicians here, they all ride, corporate lines. And, we just gave Sherwin Williams $100 million tax abatement to build their new building here in downtown Cleveland. And, we live in the second poorest large city in America. So I think that some of these community members, even if you don't have you don't know someone that works for Sherwin Williams, there's enough people here that have jobs through Sherwin Williams that our community members love to turn a blind eye to this because they know that's one of the job creators here. And it might be beneficial to the couple of thousand people that they employ, but it comes at the cost of, the rest of our community.
Well, the couple thousand people they employ might have a short retirement if they get cancer from the water that Sherwin Williams is poisoning. To be fair, maybe it was an accident, but accidents happen all the time. And during our industrialization blitz in America in the mid 20th century, there wasn't a lot of thought of, the long-term ramifications, whether it be Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, some of the most polluted areas in the country, by the industrial corporations that we showered money into. Yes, created a lot of jobs, fed a lot of families, but there's also a cost that we're now seeing.
Yeah, and like you said, accident or not, your company is worth, over $75 billion. And if you were to build another building down there right now, you would have to have preventative mitigation, dikes around any of your fuel cells and stuff like that. And clearly they don't. And they're not prioritizing the what if, but it's not even a what if, it's a when.
Right. Tell people where they could find out more about Trash Fish if they want to get involved somehow.
Yeah, I'd love to have y'all join our Instagram family. That's where we do most of our posting and most of our organizing and where all my best jokes get posted. So follow along at trashfish_CLE, like Cleveland, I believe it is. And if you're in the area or if you're ever stopping through Cleveland, I've got a free kayak with your name on it if you want to come out and give back a little bit.
I might have to pass out copies of my upcoming book to folks on the river. We the Poisoned, exposing the Flint water crisis cover-up, because it's all interconnected. I've been covering Flint now for 8 years, and it's kind of the same playbook, sadly, in most of these places where corporations get to basically do whatever they want. They then, with the government, cover it up after and leave folks to slowly die. So anyway, thanks for going on the river. Keep in touch. Now that you have my contact, and we'll stay on it.
I will, and I look forward to reading your book. Thank you. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
y'all.